intelligence is reshaping industries on both sides of the Pacific. How are China and the United States fostering innovation, and what might the next phase of competition and cooperation look like?
Nina Xiang is the founder of China Money Network, a news and data platform tracking China's smart investments and technology innovation. She's the author of several books, including Red AI, Victories, and Warnings from China's Rise in Artificial Intelligence, and U.S.-China Tech War, what Chinese tech history reveals about future tech rivalry. We met in San Francisco, where Xiang spoke at the Asia Society's conference on the future of China-U.S. relations.
Nina, thank you so much for talking to us. I mean, just moments ago, you're moderating a panel with two authors who, like you, have a lot of experience covering the tech industry and China. Any takeaways from your conversation?
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of pessimism, unfortunately, but also cautious optimism. So, there is this sense of a lot of unpredictable factors, impacting U.S.-China dynamic. A lot of the policies from the Trump administration and how it's doing to the investment community, to the business community. And also, I guess on the U.S. side, there is this sense of lack of self-confidence. So there's growing anxiety on the part of the U.S. audience, feeling like China is winning and winning more and more on many more different fronts. So we have seen the dismantling of a lot of U.S.-China collaboration in technology, in business and investments. So we've seen a lot of research labs closed. We've seen a lot of Chinese researchers in the U.S. returning back to China. We've seen investments dropping significantly cross-border, especially technology investment. But still, we have to put things back in perspective. If you look at the level and the depths of collaboration that still exist, Walmart is still doing good business in China. Despite a lot of American companies already exiting China, there are a lot of still, American companies operating in China and Chinese companies doing great business in the U.S. And so there are cautious optimism that we can manage and navigate this very delicate relationship forward.
So it's interesting. One of the things you said was this feeling that China is winning, which gets to the whole kind of, is it cooperation? Is it competition? And the other thing that I think about when you say that is China, the perception that China is winning because China is focused, laser focused on the future, and the F word for the United States is fragmented? That seems to be like all over the place. One day it's this, the next day it's that. Do you think that's part of it?
Exactly that. I think that's definitely a major driver. Look at U.S. policy, right? Look at the back and forth. Look at the legislative front. When you have new administrations coming, you could dismantle the law that the previous administration put in. But there is also, a fundamental fact-based perception on people, in the business, in AI sector, in technology, that China is really advancing at a pace, I guess, beyond many people's expectations, especially with what happened, in AI, like, DeepSeek and also Manus AI. Those sort of caught everybody a little bit, off guard. Like people didn't expect China could have this rabbit in their head. So I think that really changed people's perception of how this dynamic is playing out. From my own perspective, because I wrote the book on China's AI sector back in 2019, I was a little pessimistic, and I think what happened with during the past year with China's AI space made me rethink what did I do wrong in terms of my assumptions. So I think back in 2019, I thought, China's innovation ecosystem as a whole, I see some like really structural constraints. And I think those might hinder China's technological innovation. But it turns out, the whole system in its entirety doesn't have to work as a whole. But instead, as long as you have pockets of innovation hubs or places where there's relative, tolerance and openness for greatly talented young people to get together with a very, single-handed, objective to advance on AI, then they can do wonderful things. They can do miracles.
You do this introspection. Where did I get things wrong? But here in the U.S., people get things wrong about China quite a bit when it comes to innovation. What do you think the common misconceptions are here in the U.S.?
Yeah, so today, interestingly, like there was a talk uh, by a researcher exactly on that topic. He mentioned like there's a lot of like misperceptions about China's drive. So the question is like, you ask China, you should ask like U.S. investors or U.S. politicians or policymakers like, what is driving China? Is it ideology? Is it communism that's driving China? So I think most people would come to say, of course not, right? China is very, very pragmatic, and it's driven by economic incentives. It's driven by, very, very practical objectives. That's a big one for sure. Other mistakes or wrong perceptions. I mentioned a little bit about how like American politicians might want to exaggerate China's technology capabilities. Um, I think there is still such a tendency. China, similarly, China's tech space or innovation space is a little bit like uh, the perhaps the current administration. It's very unpredictable, right? So it's very hard to say right now after what happened with DeepSeek and Menace AI, scoring big on the AI race agenda, that that's going to happen again. So I think there is that unpredictability that, we have to be cautious to think, okay, China is winning and they're going to continue to win going forward. So maybe a little bit of that kind of misperception as well.
Let's talk about AI because you've watched it quite a bit and you've written about it. What's the next chapter look like in AI development in China, do you think?
It's very hard for me to make any predictions. I think we'll see the same pattern persist among U.S. and China. So China will still have this very practical approach to it. They're going to be focused on AI's application, right? So how do you use AI, as a tool to improve productivity, as a tool to discover new drugs, as a tool to, help with education. But the U.S. will be more focused on fundamental research. They probably will produce, the next technological breakthrough in terms of, new AI large, new model frameworks or new approach to advancing AI. So we're going to see that dynamic persist, I suspect. Um, and and in terms of AI technology as a whole, I think I think it's clear that it's going to disrupt how everything is done.
Let me finish with one final question. We hear this expression a lot from China, win-win cooperation. And certainly we've seen where the two sides cooperate and it benefits both countries. Now there's all this friction. But do you see areas where you can see collaboration moving forward? Where are the kind of sectors or areas where you think there's a possibility where some of the friction will go away?
I think in terms of the China-U.S. tech competition, there are only two possible outcomes: win-win, lose-lose, and there isn't going to be a third possibility, which is one country win, another country lose. Doesn't matter, whether it's China wins or U.S. wins. So, so the reason is, the two countries are so, right now, despite the links are being dismantled a little bit, but they're still so important in terms of the whole world, whether it's proportion of GDP and people and the kind of influence and fundamental roles they play in global supply chains. Anything beyond national security, right? Anything that's not really highly related to national security, like advanced semiconductors or military technology. There are actually a lot of collaboration on pharmaceutical industry, on retail, on like manufacturing, not advanced manufacturing, but manufacturing, and also definitely academic research, as well as potentially, hopefully, some more exchanges in terms of culture through whether it's through apps or through different platforms. It's a good way to think about this in a green sector, orange sector, and red sector, right? So all the red sectors are off limits, and then the green sectors are where we could freely collaborate, and then the yellow or the orange sector is where we could negotiate and also maybe discuss case by case. I think that's an approach that the EU set for AI regulation as well, like 3 levels. So that's a good approach and good framework to think about this.
You leave us with hope. Thank you very much. Always great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.